Let's discuss a dynamic in modern relationships that isn't about right or wrong, but about cause and effect. It's a pattern observed by many, whispered about in private, yet often dismissed in public discourse. To illustrate, consider a story about a friend of mine. We'll call him James. James embodied what many would call a dedicated partner. For years, he was the steady foundation. While his wife pursued an advanced degree, he managed the mechanics of daily life, the bills, the home, the logistics, freeing her to focus entirely on her ambitions. He saw it as an investment in their future. The day she graduated and stepped into a high-earning role was a day of celebration. The struggle, it seemed, had paid off. The shift was gradual. The shared pride he expected to feel sometimes felt more like a growing distance. The dynamic had quietly changed. Years of support, once the glue of the partnership, now seemed like a footnote in her new story. Within a few years, the marriage ended. The reason given was the common, heartbreaking refrain of growing apart. James was left grappling with a simple, brutal question. I did everything I was supposed to. Why wasn't it enough? This raises a difficult, often taboo question. What happens to the invisible architecture of a relationship when the traditional financial foundation is radically remodeled? This isn't a commentary on ambition or capability. It's an examination of unintended consequences. It's about how shifts in external achievement can inadvertently rewrite internal scripts of respect, attraction, and dependency that a relationship was built upon. Before we go deeper, if you're finding this analysis relatable or thought-provoking, hit that subscribe button. We dissect complex social dynamics like this every week, and you won't want to miss what comes next. Let's start with power, the unspoken currency in every relationship. We like to believe love exists on a plane above economics, that true partnership is immune to balance sheets. But observe behavior, not rhetoric. Resources influence practical realities. Who has ultimate veto power on major decisions? Who feels freer to express discontent? And who perceives more options inside and outside the relationship? For generations, a common, though not universal, structure saw the man as the primary provider. This established a certain psychological and practical equilibrium, for better or worse. It was a known script. When that script is flipped, when she becomes the primary or sole high earner, that equilibrium is disrupted. The relationship isn't just continuing on the same track. It's now operating on a different set of rails, and the ride can feel unexpectedly unstable for both people. This brings us to the uncomfortable, non-negotiable engine of romance: attraction. Attraction isn't merely logical or moral, it's deeply tied to perception of value and competence. For many, part of that perception is unconsciously linked to a partner's ability to provide and protect, to demonstrate mastery in the world. When a woman significantly out-earns her partner, that unconscious metric can misfire. She may look at him and no longer see the provider she once relied upon. His practical utility in that specific domain diminishes. This isn't about his inherent worth as a man or a partner, which remains intact. It's about a shift in perception. And when admiration erodes, desire often follows. This isn't a conscious, cruel choice. It's a slow, subtle recalibration of feeling that can happen beneath the level of awareness. Does this resonate with you? Have you seen this dynamic play out? Let me know in the comments below. This is a conversation we need to have. Beneath our modern ideals lies what we might call human software. Deep-seated expectations shaped over millennia. We can consciously champion total role interchangeability, but our nervous system might still hum with older rhythms. When reality conflicts with that deep programming, when she is the undisputed breadwinner and he is not, a low-grade tension can emerge. She might feel unsupported in a way she can't articulate. He might feel emasculated in a way he's ashamed to admit. This creates a silent rift, a gap between what they think they should feel and what they actually feel. Now, let's talk about the cruelest irony, the sacrifice that becomes a liability. In the struggle phase, his support is invaluable. It's the bedrock. Her gratitude is profound because her need is real. But once her success arrives, that specific need vanishes. What he provided, stability during the climb, is no longer required. And sometimes, gratitude doesn't just fade into neutrality. It can curdle into a quiet contempt. He becomes a living reminder of a time of struggle and dependency, not a celebrated architect of her victory. The very sacrifice that built the tower can make him seem out of place in the penthouse. If you're following this and seeing the patterns, share this with a friend. These are uncomfortable truths we need to discuss openly, not just in whispers. Success also changes social ecosystems. As her income and status rise, her professional circle expands to include more high-achieving, high-earning individuals. She is now constantly exposed to potential peers who match her new professional stature. This creates an invisible, relentless comparison machine. She may come home from a gala or a high-stakes meeting and, unconsciously, compare her husband not to his former self, but to the powerful men she just networked with. He hasn't changed, but the benchmark has. Comparison is, as they say, the thief of joy, and often, the thief of marital contentment. This is compounded by a critical shift in what I call exit friction. When financial interdependence exists, it creates a practical barrier to rash dissolution. There's a cost to leaving that encourages working through problems. When she achieves full financial independence, that friction disappears. The exit door becomes weightless. Suddenly, minor annoyances aren't just irritants. They become justifications for walking through that frictionless door. Tolerance plummets because the cost of intolerance is now zero. The relationship, once stabilized by both love and practicality, now must survive on love alone. And love is often the first casualty of eroded respect. The breakdown is a masterclass in slow escalation. It begins with almost imperceptible changes, a slight coldness in tone, a decrease in physical affection, less interest in the minutiae of his day. Then comes the critique phase. Habits once overlooked are now branded as fatal flaws. A steady, reliable nature is recast as a lack of ambition. By the time he realizes they're having problems, she has often been emotionally checked out for a year, her departure already a foregone conclusion in her heart. He's just starting the conversation she's already finished. We're halfway through. Make sure you've liked this video. It helps others find this crucial discussion in the algorithm. There's also a fundamental, if politically incorrect, difference in how men and women often experience commitment. Men frequently bind themselves to duty, loyalty, and the structure itself, the promise they made. Women, broadly speaking, often weigh the benefits a relationship provides: emotional, financial, practical. This isn't calculating. It's a natural assessment of life quality. A man may stay because he said he would. A woman may stay because the relationship adds to her life. When her income soars, she can now provide those benefits for herself. The primary reason for staying, the added benefit, evaporates, while his reason, duty, remains. This mismatch in foundational motivations leads to devastating surprise when she decides to leave. Furthermore, the all-consuming nature of building high-level success often leads to relationship neglect. Her best energy goes to the boardroom, not the living room. The partnership becomes logistical, not intimate. A death spiral ensues. Career focus drains the relationship. The empty relationship pushes her further into her career for fulfillment, and the cycle continues until the marital bond is a hollow shell. The final, bitter twist often comes in the legal arena. The power dynamic felt during the marriage can undergo a shocking inversion in divorce court. The higher earner, regardless of gender, often faces significant financial obligations. The man she may have unconsciously viewed as a dependent could be entitled to a portion of the assets and future earnings he enabled through his support. The financial dominance she felt can transform into legal liability, a harsh consequence rarely considered during the marriage's decline. The toll on men in these situations is severe and somatic. Living under a constant, low-grade atmosphere of being less than is a chronic stressor. It manifests in sleep loss, anxiety, and an eroded sense of self. Socialized to endure silently, they often suffer in isolation, which only compounds the damage. Ultimately, we confront a grand ideological conflict. Our modern cortex champions perfect equality, insisting financial disparity shouldn't matter. But our ancient limbic brain, wired over millennia, responds to different signals, signals of provision, protection, and complementary strength. When the cortex's beliefs clash with the limbic system's instincts, the instincts usually win in the realm of feeling and attraction. You can't argue someone into desire. The lesson here isn't that women shouldn't shine or earn. It's that couples embarking on this path must be architects, not passengers. They must proactively build a new script for respect, value, and attraction that isn't tied to a paycheck. They must verbalize the unspoken, celebrate contributions that aren't financial, and consciously protect the intimacy that career ambition can easily starve. Ignoring these forces doesn't make you enlightened, it makes you vulnerable to them. If this analysis hit home for you, or even if it made you angry, tell me why in the comments. This is the most important conversation we're not having about modern relationships. And if you want more unfiltered breakdowns of the hidden forces shaping our lives, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Your support allows us to keep having these necessary, tough conversations.